hello, and welcome back to CMC. We are so excited to see all of you today. I think we're right at almost 200 of you today, so give yourselves a round of applause. You look wonderful. It's good to see everybody. I'm Mo Wright, President of the Board of Trustees and President of Raymond Consulting. It's so good to see all of you again. We're here every week, so if you're a guest, we want to see you back next week, and the week after, and the week after that, and the week after that. Today's forum, The Future of Columbus's Creative Economy, is sponsored by Puffin Foundation West, WOSU Public Media, and the Robert Weiler Company. Let's thank these and their colleagues for being here and their support today. The creative class, a term coined by author Richard Florida, including artists, technology workers, musicians, the design community. In his 2002 book, The Rise of the Creative Class, is one of our topics for today's conversation. Florida attributes high concentrations of these creative types as a fundamental to the success of modern cities in both their culture and their economy. It has been just a little over a year since our speaker today from Columbus College of Art and Design has taken the role of president, and we look forward to hearing her thoughts on how creative and Columbus fit together today. Following some opening remarks, Dr. Corn will join the host of WOSU Arts Program Broad and High, Kate Quickel, for a conversation, and then she will actually be introduced here in just a moment. Join me in welcoming the president of the Columbus College of Art and Design, Dr. Melanie Corn.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I've had the pleasure of being in the audience a number of times for these events, but this is my first time up on stage. I want to just start by thanking the Columbus Metropolitan Club for inviting me. It's a great honor. And I do have to say, in addition to our sort of long membership as an institution in CMC, Pat Gibney, the first executive director, is the grandmother of CCAD's student body president, Guy Gibney, who's also here today. So, you know, deep connections here in Columbus. Just to tell you very quickly a little bit about CCAD, for those of you who don't know, Columbus College of Art and Design was founded in 1879. For the first 100 years, we were part of the museum. And in about 1980, we separated. Nanette likes to say it was an amicable divorce. We are still friends and good neighbors, but we became our own nonprofit entity around that time. We're an accredited 4-year nonprofit, private, standalone art and design college. Our focus is on visual arts and design, though we have a full sort of liberal arts, general education. We believe in a broad, sort of holistic education for our students. And we have just over 1,000 students right now, and that includes about 12 undergraduate majors, including 2 new undergraduate majors that are launching this fall, one in comics and narrative practice, and the other in contemporary craft. And we have 2 graduate programs, an MFA in visual arts that has been around for about 6 years or so now, and a new degree starting in the fall, a Master's of Design in Integrative Design that I'll tell you a little bit more about later. So I think that introduction to CCAD hopefully tells you a little bit why I care so much about the creative economy, and particularly sort of CCAD's role in growing the creative economy here in Columbus and beyond. So what is the creative economy? You heard a brief bit about that in the introduction. Richard Florida, again, 2002, said that creativity is now the decisive source of competitive advantage. And I think this is really something that is about a sort of transition from the industrial age to the post-industrial, sort of technology and information age to what we might think of now is more the kind of creative age of the economy. Daniel Pink, another writer about the creative economy, he said about sort of why now, why this moment, he phrased it as it being about abundance, Asia, and automation. So what he meant by that was automation, as more and more manufacturing jobs can be automated, those jobs begin to go away, and so manufacturing is on the decline. Asia, that was his, a nice alliteration for outsourcing, sort of other jobs, again, whether that's manufacturing or, as we're seeing more of now, more of the sort of information age jobs, also being outsourced beyond the US. And finally, abundance. And to pause on that one for a second, I think to me that's one of the most important ones, because if you imagine walking down the grocery store aisle, you want some cereal. You've got about 100 choices on the shelf there at the grocery store. In reality, they're all about the same. We may have our preferences. Do you want raisins? Do you want flakes? But at the end of the day, you look at the ingredients, there's a lot of commonality. And for most of us, how do we choose within that great abundance? It's design. It's by looking at the package. It's by the package design. It's by the visuals. We may think we're choosing one because it's healthy, but we're told it's healthy because of the green leaves on the label and everything else, right? So design becomes, again, as Florida said, the decisive source of competitive advantage, particularly in this age of abundance. So, why does it matter, I think? If you look at nationally, the arts and cultural production contributed $704 billion to the US economy in 2013. And that's just the direct impact. So that doesn't include the role of creatives and designers and other aspects of the economy. So, what would Apple be, of course, without design at its core? Bad pun, not intended, sorry. So to bring this back to our region, Columbus's creative economy is a growing sector of our prospering city. Creative industries generated 10 years ago, in 2006, more than $3 billion in business receipts, $932 million in employee income, and $67 million in state and local tax revenues. So that was 10 years ago. Also, 10 years ago, 18,000 plus people were employed in Central Ohio's creative industries, and nearly 12,000 were working in creative occupations. So again, I think, one of the factors is thinking about sort of what is the local impact of the creative economy on our own growth and economic development. And one thing that I would say, first of all, in terms of what lies ahead for us, is that we need to do that next study. It's a decade later, and we need to sort of see what that growth in impact has been over the last 10 years. I think it has been sizable based on just the overall growth here in Columbus, but we need to do another, Creative Columbus report. But thinking more recently about some other sort of numbers, in the news, Smart Asset said Columbus was number 6 city in the nation for creatives. We were also, based on the U.S. Census, the number 1 best city in the U.S. for job and population growth. And I guess what I would argue is that those good numbers about creatives and job and population growth are connected. That the growth in art and design and more broadly speaking creative jobs is part of what is helping Columbus in this really great moment of prosperity for us. A few examples, I guess, within that then. How does design specifically help build an economy here in Columbus? Fashion, I think that one is a pretty obvious one. You would be maybe surprised how many people outside of Columbus don't know that Columbus is a big fashion area. In fact, number 3 city in fashion design behind only New York and LA here in the US. And that's because, of course, of large, commitments, L Brands, Abercrombie and Fitch, Eloquii, Zulily, getting down to, smaller ones as well, Homage, other sort of startups thinking about the alternative fashion mob here, a number of entrepreneurs who are sort of making a name for themselves here in the fashion realm. But it's not just fashion, of course. There's also been a long history of strength in advertising and graphic design here in Columbus, again, from large firms like GSW to smaller firms like Summerfield and even more recently S77. Creatives, however, in larger companies are also really critical, again, to our economy. So think about anything from Jenny's Ice Cream to Nationwide. Those companies have a number of creatives working in them, whether that's in their own internal marketing and branding or just in sort of the larger ways in which creatives can contribute to important sort of strategic thinking and leadership. And I think, of course, then this brings me back to CCAD, because I can't be in this room without, of course, plugging CCAD. CCAD is driving the creative economy here, I would argue. So what do all those companies above that I mentioned have in common? They were all founded by or have strong participation from CCAD alums. Grads and companies all over Columbus and around the world. This is not just Columbus. We have grads at Lego, American Greetings, Pixar, Disney, Apple, Google, Facebook. The list goes on, Paramount, as well as grads out there around the world who are entrepreneurs, who are investing in themselves and developing really amazing startups. That all of these grads are sort of having an important impact on the creative economy. But I think what I would say is that it's not just design in the strictest sense, that art is also an important part of our economy. Nonprofit arts in Columbus generate $226 million in economic activity and provide 8,500 jobs, according to the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. Many CCAD alumni are also founders and in upper management positions of businesses, including galleries, stores, design firms, restaurants in the Short North. We play an important role, I think, in that arts district, as well as in Franklinton. So, we've got the sort of newer, younger, more burgeoning sort of DIY art scene in Franklinton, and both of those, I think, Franklinton and Short North, rely heavily on CCAD as an important sort of generator for artists and leaders in those communities. So I think, not only then are arts organizations an important part of our economy, but of course, artists who can afford to live here, because we are an affordable community still, they are making a living and spending those dollars out there, helping our community and our economy grow. Beyond that, I guess the other argument I would make is that art attracts people to a city and encourages them to stay. So there was a speaker who came to speak here in Columbus in the fall at a Discovery District meeting, Peter Kageyama. He wrote For the Love of Cities. And one of the things that he really talked about was sort of what makes a city lovable. Of course, we all want a livable city, right? We want a city where cost of living, is good, where public education is good, public transportation, where we have access to what we need. Those are really critical things that make a city livable. But how do you move from livable to lovable? A lot of that is about art and culture. It's about the opera and the ballet and the museum. It's about the startup, artist space down the street. It's about public art out in the community. Something else I would say that Columbus needs more of for all of the great things we're doing in the creative economy. There's still more that we can do. So I guess then what I would argue, along with Peter Kageyama, is that a strong art and culture sector is attractive. It's what transforms a city from livable to lovable. It helps us be a great tourist destination. J.D. Power, #1 city in the Midwest for visitor satisfaction, but it also helps people stay. So in addition, 2016 Time, #1 best big city in the Midwest. That's about people staying here and committing, their time here. If you think about sort of other cities, around the nation who have made that transformation of that sort of mid-sized city, again, you can point to the art and culture section, as well as the important role of economic development. So think about Austin, Nashville, Portland, San Francisco. These are areas with thriving creative economies, thriving art scenes, and again, I would say those really do go hand in hand. Creative placemaking is an important part of how we establish our art scene here in the city. Here in Columbus, I would say that CCAD grads are also really blurring the lines between art and design. So it's not just one or the other, the design that is part of that more sort of explicit economic development, or the art that just makes life good, right? Those lines are not nearly as clear. We have alums who are starting restaurants like The Table and Yellow Brick Pizza, as well as starting a lot of other important retail ventures. Two of our alums, Emily Brown, Industrial Design from 2016, and Brian Kellett, Photography from 2007, started Stump Plant Store near Wineland Park, just opened a second store in German Village. I was just there actually this last weekend. It's an incredible, cool space where you can, buy your new succulent, but also sort of see these creative, amazing, sort of craft pieces that you can get along with that. And, Emily got the idea to start this business after working on a project about garden centers in CCAD's Mind Market, which is sort of our hub for community and corporate partnerships. I I think, one of the other important parts to mention, though, is that I'm a strong believer that art and design are not only for economic good, but they're also an important part of how we think about social good in the world. I think that solving the world's wicked problems will take multidisciplinary teams. If you think about anything from solving the safe water crisis to, a hunger crisis around the world, yes, we need engineers and biologists, but we also need designers and artists because they're creative problem solvers. They're the people who can help collaborate together and help us really make a difference in the world. Two quick examples of that here. Jason Moore, advertising graphic design alum from 1996. He started a branding and design agency, Fulcrum Creatives. They are a B Corp, a benefit corporation, and they do a lot of work that does not have to compromise profit, right, but is all about sort of thinking about the social good through their design. AJ Vanderelli, she runs the Vanderelli Room in Franklinton. She was a CCAD grad in fine arts from 2008. She is, again, part of that creative placemaking of really helping to boost the neighborhood and its reputation as an arts hub. But she also considers herself an arts facilitator. She works with a sort of young artist with autism and partners with Flying Horse Farms to think about, how we can use art to sort of impact individual lives as well as, sort of grand scale, worldwide wicked problems. So what is CCAD doing next to advance the creative economy? We are constantly looking at what fields, what majors, what disciplines are out there, trying to graduate people who can not only be sort of productive members of our society from an economic standpoint, but are out there, living a creative life that they want to live. And that we are, in doing that, sort of looking at, what's happening out there in the industry, in the creative industry. Our curriculum is very flexible. We're a small institution, so we have the benefit of being able to be nimble and, respond to sort of what the demands are of the creative economy, make sure that our students are prepared. I mentioned our Masters of Design program. This is a new program that is focused on design leadership and specifically working through the mind market on collaborative team-based work, bringing together designers and business folks to help them, again, sort of think through how we can move forward around helping corporations and community organizations solve their problems. We, I believe, at CCAD are set up in a really good position to help Columbus in terms of what's next for the creative economy here. Through that, our new strategic plan is focused on increasing partnerships with corporations and nonprofits, practicing our own good community citizenship, and bringing artists and designers together. So to wrap up and to turn it over to the next part of the conversation, what brought me here to Columbus? I had a lot of people wondering that out in the San Francisco Bay Area. When I said I was coming to Columbus, their first question was, Columbus where? I think, as with many in the room, one of my big goals is to make that a non-question. All the other Columbuses out there can say Columbus where. We should never have to say Columbus OH, it's just Columbus. And of course, I came here because I had this amazing opportunity at CCAD. It's a great school, it's a great job. But I wouldn't have come here if this were just anywhere. I came here because Columbus is a city that has so much potential. It's doing so many wonderful things right now. And this is a place where I felt that not only could I, raise my family and enjoy a wonderful, comfortable, happy life, but it was a place where I felt that I was going to be able to thrive in this great creative community. And even more importantly, from that job perspective, it was a place where I think our students and our alumni can thrive. I was at CCA in the Bay Area, and yes, it's a great school. Bay Area's got a strong creative economy, but you graduate, you're 22, you've got some debt, and rent's $3,500 a month. How do you take risks? How do you be an entrepreneur? How do you get together with your friends and open up an art space? Those are the kinds of things that are possible here, because I think Columbus is really in the sweet spot where we have the capacity for the strong creative economy, but we also have a community that still has that low cost of living. And I think, because of the Columbus Way, because we truly are a community that believes in collaboration, believes in supporting our, fellow citizens and helping our young artists and designers make their own way. So that's why I'm thrilled to be here, and I look forward to getting to know those of you I haven't met yet. Thanks.
All right, we're gonna get settled, and I'm gonna grill Melanie with some questions. That was wonderful. Thank you. I feel like you answered all my questions, but I'll figure some out. So I'd love to talk to you more about partnerships in the community. I know you mentioned the Mind Market and the way that you kind of encourage CCAD students to work on corporate partnerships. And even last summer, CCAD partnered with Experience Columbus for the Mobile Media Lounge, which I thought was really cool. Are there other partnerships that you've got on your brain that you really want to pursue or that you've heard about that are other ways to kind of expand the creative economy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as I mentioned briefly, I think that corporate and community partnerships are an incredibly important part of CCAD's future, and I think will really help us, again, be that engine for Columbus's creative economy. So, we work on partnerships all the time. Right now, we're working with GCAC and thinking about, the Arts Festival and how our students can help design new T-shirts for, the Arts Festival volunteers. I think there are opportunities with GCAC and the city and Columbus Partnership to think about the Smart Cities Initiative. We are, working with Betsy Pandora and the Short North Alliance to think about how CCAD students can play a role in the sort of future renovations in the Short North. We also, just in the past year since I've been here, we've had partnerships with GM, Airstream, Opera Columbus, Pelotonia, Easton Foundation, the list goes on, Corn Kokosing, and those really run anywhere from a semester or year-long, sort of deep, in-depth partnership that is about sort of exploring a theme or a topic, or looking at a specific event, product, et cetera. Or it could be an afternoon. It could be a sort of design charrette where CCAD sort of plays host to help an organization come in and solve their problem. We've got, 1,000 eager, creative millennials, at our fingertips.
Let's use them.
Yes, let's use them. And I think it's incredibly beneficial to them. So I think to me, I think there's a lot always on our plate, and yet I think there needs to be more, even more.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, kind of going back to the concept of all these amazing alums, CCAD alums who are out there, you talked about at the beginning of your speech just the incredible companies that a lot of them work for, and a lot of them are all over the world, which is amazing, but is there a strategy that you employ or that CCAD employs to encourage those graduates to stay in Columbus and create and add to the economy here?
No, that's a great point. I think that, we have about 12,000 or so, living alumni right now, and about, 3,000, I'm looking at Lindsay, about 3,000 of them live here in Columbus. And so on the one hand, of course, there's pride in our alumni being able to, leave the nest and go make
Explore.
it, in the big city out there in New York and LA and, wherever that might be. But at the same time, I think absolutely an important part of our economic development as a region is keeping all of that talent here in the Columbus, Central Ohio region, not just from CCAD, obviously, but from all of our local, higher education institutions. So in terms of how do we do that, I think one of the key ways is, we've got a focus right now on expanding career services. We offer, internships for our students, but I personally would love to see all of our students do an internship. I think, while not all those internships have to be local, most of them are. And what a great way to get them sort of already embedded in the, community, the creative economy here in the city, to get them sort of access to that before they've even graduated. So to me, I think that's a really key one. And honestly, the other part is I'm always in this bit of a dilemma because I want Columbus to continue on its upward trajectory. We hate to make comparisons, but we always we talk about it's the next whatever Brooklyn,
Austin,
Portland,
whatever,
Austin,
yeah.
And on the one hand, I want that a lot. On the other hand, I know that that's also been challenging for those regions. Again, coming from the Bay Area, where I lived in Oakland, and you can't even afford to live in Oakland anymore, much less San Francisco. So I think the other thing that we need to think about as a region is, if we believe that the arts and culture are so critical, how do we keep this region affordable? How do we make sure that we're creating support systems so that we can continue to attract economic growth and development, but still have sort of civic infrastructure and corporate infrastructure to support, artists and community members who are, making a difference in the area, though they may not be bringing in big dollars.
Right. Yeah. Is there anything you would want local companies to know about hiring CCAD students or graduates, just to kind of keep that in mind for them? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that sometimes there may be a misperception that, that a place like CCAD is an art school and therefore is only training people to be, painters. And we have people who are painters, and that's wonderful, and they have 1,001 skills that they can bring to the table. But we have an incredibly wide array of students, and so the sort of the technical skills that they can bring to the table are incredibly varied. But I think most importantly, what I would say is that all of our students, whether they are focused on painting or industrial design or fashion or animation, those students are first and foremost creative problem solvers, and they are incredibly hard workers. I mean, the work ethic at art school is insane. My background's actually art history. I did my undergraduate in art history at Stanford, and I tell people the CCAD students work harder than I ever worked in college. Wow. And that is true. They are up, sometimes, unfortunately, up all night, working hard. They live in the studio. And the reason for that is because, yes, it's hard work, but this is their passion. I mean, this is the best place in the world to be. I joke with people that I have the best job in the world because nobody's mom ever made them go to art school. That's so true. They all want to be there. Right. They all want to be there, and they are, they will go to art school. Right. They're passionate people. I do, now I've amended that statement to say that won't be true for much longer, because I do think pretty soon people will be saying, no, you must go to art school in order to get a good job because of the strength of the creative economy. But I think no matter what, these are passionate folks with hard, an incredible work ethic, creative problem solvers. They will benefit your corporation no matter what that line of work is. It's not just design firms, or retail or whatever that might be. The obvious ones. Yeah, the obvious ones, right? It goes beyond that, I think, and many people may forget that. Cool. Yeah. We've talked a lot about, in your talk, and I think whenever we talk about the arts in Columbus, we talk about the Short North, we talk about Franklinton. What are your thoughts on expanding the art scene? I mean, I feel like those are the go-tos, but and they're amazing, and they're changing constantly, but how do we expand it and kind of introduce the art scene to other people or get other creatives involved? Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it really does take a wide community effort. I think that it is too easy, and I do it myself, obviously, to just sort of go to that shorthand of Short North and Franklinton. We've got the King Arts Complex. We've got a lot of other sort of arts organizations, visual arts and performing arts and music that are not in those two sort of arts districts. Pockets, those pockets. And I do think that. Of course, there's a benefit to having, sort of multiple kind of hubs of strengths, of the arts. But at the same time, I think we need to think about the arts as as a citywide initiative, right? That it's not just about sort of this area and no one else needs to worry about it. That it really is a Columbus-wide benefit, and that means we all need to sort of support the arts that are popping up in all the various sort of parts of the city. Are there examples you have of what the average person can do to support the creative economy? I mean, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. You're like, I want to go to this opening, or I want to be involved in this. Are there kind of unorthodox ideas you have for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it, of course, is yes, participate. You know, go to the shows, go to whatever. You know, we can't all support everything, and we can't be. There's too much happening in Columbus now. You know, stop being so creative and busy. You know,
no, keep doing it.
So you know, you can't go to everything, but I think you know there's a lot that you can do, and we all need to go to more of it. You know, even I need to go to more of it. It's you know, it can be hard sometimes, but I think beyond just sort of showing up. You know, I think supporting arts organizations is critical. You know, I think that that many of us, you know, have some philanthropic dollars to share. They may be small, but it's really about the commitment. You know, we talk about this a lot within the higher education realm. You know, how do we continue to sort of build our own you know, sort of friends of the college and those who are, you know, sort of participating from a philanthropic level. To me, you know, it's of course dollars matter, but it's not about dollars. It's about engagement. And so I think in some ways it's more about, you know, are you showing up? You know, are you on a regular basis committing something because it's a signal that this matters to you and that you think it's really important. You know, I think that there are, of course, you know, public initiatives, you know, potentially underway that are important to support. And I think from a business standpoint, you know, it's about, I think, paying artists for the work they do.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that sometimes we think, oh, you know, I just need, you know, an idea from you. That idea is, you know, probably worth a lot of money. So, you know, pay somebody for that idea that you want. You know, you want someone to come, you know, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's what I would say. You know, you want someone to come and, you know, just give you a little advice on your brand, your interiors, your, you know, whatever it might be, what you're wearing tomorrow for the party. You know, pay them because those ideas are valuable, and I think we need to understand that, I think, as a community and as a business community.
That's so true. We've talked about sort of the places you've lived, Chicago and Oakland, and how Columbus is kind of its own thing. What are some things that you think, having been here for a year, that make Columbus stand out and make people realize it's just Columbus?
Right. You know, I guess I would say, you know, I mentioned at the end the thing about the Columbus Way, and that's something that I've heard a lot about since I've been here. And I think it's easy to say, you know, oh yeah, it's just, you know, the Midwestern friendliness and kind of brush it off as a, you know, as a generalization or stereotype. But I mean, I tell you, it is not like this everywhere. You know, it is not. I mean, you know, we like to think of the West Coast as really chill and friendly, and yes, it may not be the East Coast, but it is not like Columbus. And I think one of the things that is really unique about that, and what I mean by that is, there's a spirit of collaboration here that goes far beyond the perfunctory, you know, let me know what I can do to help you. You know, I mean, people don't say that here without really meaning it, and yet they all still say it. And so, I mean, I've been here a year, and the number of people with whom I've met from the, you know, the arts sector, education, corporate, civic, who genuinely say, I want to sit down and talk with you. I don't need anything from you, but tell me what you might need from me, and I'm there. And that is phenomenal. And I think that has such a huge impact on the creative economy and on the arts community, because I think that, again, it's one of the elements of the secret sauce, I think, that makes Columbus a place where, especially, you know, sort of new, you know, I don't need to always say young, but, you know, new entrepreneurs can thrive, you know, creative entrepreneurs and otherwise. So to me, I think that's, I guess, one of the things I would say that's special about Columbus.
You're giving me like renewed love for CBUS. That's awesome. Well, in a few minutes, we are going to move on to the audience questions, so start thinking about those. But I do want to ask you one final thought. I'm just going to sort of tout you for a little bit, so I got to get this right. You are the first female president of CCAD. That's awesome. And you are one of only 6 women serving as presidents of member institutions of the Association of Independent Colleges of Art and Design. So I want to know, what advice do you have for young women in Columbus who are interested in being in leadership roles within the arts community? Yeah,
it's a good question. I think that, you know, I would say that a few things. I mean, first I would say take advantage of the leadership development opportunities that are out there. There are quite a few here in Columbus, and I think it's too easy to, especially maybe as women, to not prioritize ourselves and our own development, and instead spend that time or that money or whatever on someone else, whether that's at work or at home. So I would say first and foremost, take advantage of those opportunities, those classes, those retreats, those webinars, whatever it is, and do that for yourself. I think second of all, the other important part of leadership for me is it's who you know. And I know that sounds like such a sort of, old boys network kind of thing to say, but it's true, right? So I think learning how to network and understanding, that networks are important, and also understanding that every time you're out there sort of meeting people and networking, those first impressions really matter. So I think, think about who you are as a leader, who you want to be. What is your leadership style? I'm not a believer that everyone has to, sort of meet some generic mold of what is a leader. But you need to kind of know who you are and be genuine to that. And the last thing I would say is, I think for many women and people of color in particular may suffer from, what sociologists like to call imposter syndrome, where we walk around thinking, they didn't really mean to hire me, did they? I didn't really deserve this job, did I? And I think that can be overwhelming. And I would say, I guess my other piece of advice would be, don't get overwhelmed by imposter syndrome. I was thinking about the other day, I have a 9-year-old son, and somewhat embarrassingly, he likes to tell people when he meets people that, his mom is president at CCAD.
He's so proud.
He's so proud. And I am kind of like, stop. But
then you give him a $5
right.
Sorry, go on.
No, but to me, I think, I step back and I think, okay, if my 9-year-old says it and believes it, then I need to believe it too, right? So, I shouldn't be doubting myself and my own ability, and that's, I guess, what I would say to young women who are interested in leadership roles.
I think that's awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to move on to the audience Q&A portion. It is in the Metropolitan Club's tradition to take audience questions. Very exciting. So when you get up there, there's a microphone. I think we already have someone ready. You state your name, you ask your question, and then we thank you in advance for not making long editorial comments.
I'm Carol Looper, and my question is, in today's politics, the National Endowment for the Arts appears to be suffering major cuts. Can you talk about what effect those cuts would have and what you and fellow organizations are doing to fight to keep the money that comes to your organizations?
Yeah, thank you, Carol. It's I know when we all sort of saw the skinny budget, there was panic going through the arts community and the education community, because of course it completely decimates the NEA and the NEH and severely cuts federal grants for higher education, Pell Grants and other things. So there's a lot to be worried about, I think, in that budget from my perspective. And I think in terms of what impact it would have. So there are a number of arts organizations, and public radio organizations who receive NEA funds. While the NEA budget for the nation overall is quite small compared to most things in the budget, it still has an important impact, I think, on our organization. So there would be a terrible impact if that money really truly did all go away. But also, I have to say, just as an educational institution, CCAD, our student body is about 40% Pell Grant eligible students. Those are low-income students. Again, I think that may be surprising to some people who don't see that. And we give a lot of institutional dollars to students in the form of scholarship and aid. But we also know that those students rely on Pell Grants. And if Pell Grants are cut, then CCAD is in trouble, I think, because we have students who may not be able to afford to come if they don't get the Pell Grant, and we may not be able to backfill those dollars. So I think on both sides, both in terms of education and the NEA, I think there's concern. Lastly, quickly, what are we doing about it? I think across, again, both cultural organization listservs and emails, as well as educational, trying to not panic too much, because again, most budgets that come from the president, are are far from the end budget after they go through the democratic process, but at the same time also not wanting to just sit back and do nothing. So I think first and foremost it's just about stating our support, making sure everyone understands the importance of all of these things, making sure our elected officials understand that they're critical to us. So I think that's really what we've been doing right now, is just trying to get the word out without getting into panic mode yet.
Next question.
Renee Delane, I have two questions for you. One is, if you were to have 24 hours to spend in conversation with anyone, living or not, who would you choose?
That's such a good question.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, and this is going to sound like a very partisan answer, and I don't mean it to be, Hillary Clinton. I would just, as a woman leader, I would want to say, wow, what has this last many years of your life been like? And to learn about leadership from that. Politics for another day. I think that's who it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And the second quick question is, who inspired you in your life to go in the direction that you have gone?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a number of people, I would say, I told this story at the YWCA Leadership Luncheon, but I grew up in higher education. My dad was a community college professor for decades and was an administrator. And I went to preschool at the sort of vocational preschool on the community college campus. And I remember, some of my earliest memories, I was 3 or 4, I guess, going to work with him. He was a biology teacher, and sitting on the high stool at the biology lab, eating, like Captain Crunch out of a Ziploc bag at, probably like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, waiting for preschool to open. He would get the lab set up and get the students going on some, experiment, and then he'd walk me across the parking lot, to preschool. And I think, that's definitely one of my inspirations, is just, I grew up in a household, my mom was a high school guidance counselor. I grew up in a household of educators, and watching my dad in particular sort of make that move from faculty to administrator, I think gave me a love for education, but also an understanding that administrator isn't a bad word, and that, that I think it is about leadership. So I guess that's what I would say, probably my dad and my mom as well.
College Preparatory Academy. So we have a lot of students that are very talented in the arts, especially visual art. There's a huge barrier between the students that are very talented and them being able and having the confidence to want to sell their art. What can we do?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think, so broadly speaking, and at CCAD, I think we need to do a better job of preparing artists to be entrepreneurs. I think that we like to think of, entrepreneur, that's business, that's over here, and artists, there's this purity. But artists are, they have to be out there selling themselves, selling their work, building relationships with galleries, et cetera. At CCAD, we have a minor in business and entrepreneurship, but even for students who don't choose that minor, they cannot escape, sort of business and entrepreneurship training throughout their required coursework, because we believe that it's an incredibly important part of what you do, regardless of where you go. So I would say, I think that that students need to be taught, even though I think sometimes it's easy to say, well, they're visual, they're visual people, they're visual thinkers. Yes, they are, and that's great, but you still have to write a good cover letter. You still have to, write an email that has correct punctuation. You still have to be able to write an artist statement. You have to be able to look people in the eye and, communicate about the work you do, negotiate a contract, if you're a freelancer, et cetera. So I think we need to teach our students basic business skills and basic communication skills, regardless of their major. I think that would be first and foremost.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Fox with the Pizzuti Companies. You spoke very eloquently about what you love about Columbus, and I'm wondering if you would tell us what you would like to see us do better at.
Yeah, I think I joke with people sometimes that, like a mission burrito, wrapped in foil that's not from Chipotle would be awesome. But seriously, I do think that I think Columbus needs to invest more in public art. I think we have this amazing, revitalized, beautiful downtown. I think there are some great pieces, but I think there could be more. I do think, it's one of those things where it's, I know in tough budget times, it's easy to maybe let that go, for the more critical things. But I would argue that public art is critical. I think people are happier and healthier when they're in a beautiful environment. And public art also can be an important social, it doesn't have to just be pretty, right? I think it can make an important social statement. It can be an important way to engage the community. So I guess that would be number one, is public art. I guess lastly, quickly, I would say that I think I absolutely believe everything I just said about collaboration and how great it is in Columbus. But at the same time, I think there's more that we could do within higher education to collaborate. So, I think it's hard. You've got these big bureaucracies, but I think that shouldn't stop us. I think we've got so many amazing colleges and universities here, and yes, we compete for the same students sometimes, but mostly we have synergies that will help us both. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Wolf, and I'm here as a guest of Puffin Foundation West. I've had the honor for the last 10 years of watching CCAD students build the aesthetic for Independence Day and some of the other large festivals. And I'm just wondering, when small festivals and groups apply for grants with Puffin and other organizations, how could they be connected with CCAD students to do some of that great work as well?
Yeah, so there's a very practical answer to that, which is we have a career services department. We have a job board. We have a director of career services. I'm happy to, give anyone her contact information. Tiffany Sparing, is our director of career services. So anyone out there who wants, a student for, a potential full-time job, an internship, or just sort of a one-off, sort of freelance kind of thing, we can help you reach students through the sort of internal job board that all of our students have access to. And so, students use that all the time to get, sort of those kinds of opportunities. But there's also ways to engage a group of students, so that might be through an academic project within a course. We need more time, obviously, more lead time to make something like that happen with the academic calendar. Or it could be a group who is doing something in a co-curricular way. We worked with Opera Columbus earlier this calendar year, and a group of CCAD students designed the chandeliers for their gala. And it was a really cool, interactive project that sort of happened outside of, a class in a way that, was a learning opportunity for those students. So yeah, CCAD students and alums are here and eager to put their creative skills to work.
Hello, Brian Moss. Excuse me, sorry. I was curious about if you could speak about a personal experience, because you've been here for about a year now, roughly, give or take. I was curious if you could speak about a previous experience from another city that you brought, that you were able to bring from that and apply it here. So it could be through innovation, something personal, or whatever, creatively.
Sure. Let's think about that. So, this may not be exactly what you are asking, but for me, I guess I would say one of the things that was a passion of mine and a focus for me at California College of the Arts, where I was provost there last. And one of the things that was a passion for me was focusing on our hiring, and faculty hiring in particular in that case, and how we can diversify that hiring. And that's something, not that CCAD, didn't care about it before, but it's something that I sort of brought with me to CCAD as a priority. And so we've been having a lot of conversations over the past year about how we can do a better job of diversifying our faculty as well as administrative hires. To me, I think it is an incredibly important part of the larger picture of thinking about the creative economy and economic development, because I think that not only from a sort of social justice standpoint of, sort of wanting to diversify our workforce and support creatives, of color and women, but also because I think, studies have shown that students of color often learn better from faculty of color. That there's an important aspect of sort of mentorship and mirroring and modeling that happens, and we need to do a better job of that. As our student body becomes more diverse, we owe it to that student body to make sure that their faculty reflects the diversity of the students and of the city and of the nation. So that's been, I think, a project. Again, I know it's not really outside of the school, but that's been a big project of mine for this last year, is to work with CCAD to focus on that.
I think this will be our last question.
Suzanne Bigley, as a parent of one of your students, and a parent who has no artistic ability whatsoever, how do I best support him? What is your advice to me? He's such a joy.
Yeah.
But clearly the genetics skipped some of us. But support staff, I'm all over, so tell me what to do.
That's a great question. I mean, first of all, I have to say, I talk to a lot of parents of, potential students and students at, various events, admitted student day and orientation, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I think, first of all, what you have done already is huge. I mean, and I joked earlier about how nobody's mom ever made them go to art school. A lot of moms don't let their kids go to art school, to be honest, especially those who maybe don't identify as creative themselves. So the fact that you said, all right, I don't know what that means or what you're going to do with your life, but sure, I support you. To me, that is huge. So congratulations on that, and thank you for that. I think in terms of continuing to support your student, I think giving them the opportunity to talk to you about their work, and I know that I mean my kid's only 9, but I know that teenagers and college students maybe are reticent to, talk about everything they're doing, and it seems like you're just being nosy if you want to know. But I think being truly inquisitive about their creative practice is a big way to support what they do. Partly it helps them with their professional development because they need to learn to talk to non-creatives about the creative work they do. But it also, I think, shows that you genuinely are interested and care, even if it may not be your field, even if you don't know, all of the language and the lingo, that you're interested about what they're passionate about. So, I mean, maybe that seems simple, but I guess that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation today as much as I did. Just know that you can always watch all our forums through a number of venues, through Columbus Television and WOSU PBS affiliates throughout the state, and of course through the CMC website via YouTube. Let's thank our sponsors for today's conversations, Puffin Foundation West, WOSU Public Media, and the Robert Weiler Company. And certainly to these dynamic women, Dr. Melanie Corn, Kate Quickel, thank you for being here. We'll see you next week.